Good afternoon, my friends, and welcome to today's edition of NWCR's Removing the Liberal Blindfold for this Tuesday, the 15th day of December in the year of our Lord 2020. The left continues to say there is no fraud. The media says there is no fraud. They all try to tell us that no one supports the president and his challenges to the election fraud that is always being found. But yesterday, I talked about the Dominion voting systems which supplied the voting machines for 28 states having been hacked. That right there is proof that fraud happened. From One America News today comes this one. Polls. Vast majority of Americans support President Trump's election challenges. From One America Newsroom, John McLaughlin, the president's pollster, noted that the vast majority of Americans actually support President Trump's voter fraud concern. And rightly so. One America's Richard Pollock sat down with McLaughlin, and it was introduced thusly, quote, Trump supporters are rallying in Washington, D.C. to show their support for the president. More of the president's supporters are gathering in Wisconsin ahead of the Trump campaign's legal team hearings in front of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Richard Pollock started with, quote, I want to talk about the fact that so far I haven't seen any national poll about whether the Republicans support the president's challenges to these states as to whether they think there was actual fraud. Is there a reason I am not seeing any of the polls from the national media organizations? Unquote. John McLaughlin replied with, quote, there is, and that's because the mainstream liberal media does not want to carry that story because it doesn't fit their narrative. They think the election's over. They think that Biden won fair and square. If anything, they keep calling and saying they want the president to concede, unquote. Richard Pollock then asked, quote, so John, I understand that there are some national polls out there. Can you talk about that? Unquote. John McLaughlin then said, quote, we did a national poll right before Thanksgiving, and the mainstream media didn't really pick it up, as 1,000 voters across the country came out with an amazing 67% thought that it was fair that Donald Trump got these recounts in these states where the ballot is less than 1% or less. That was very large, and was even a good chunk of Biden voters who thought that this was fair, and certainly without a doubt the Trump voters, and they think it's fair because he goes through the recounts. He goes through the legal challenges because this is a big challenge, unquote. And now to remove the liberal blindfold here, folks. My friends, just because the Supreme Court didn't take this up as they should have done, it is not over yet. If there was no fraud, it would be over. If there was not any cheating, then it would be over. But over it is not. Every day there are more and more people coming forward talking of the improprieties that they saw on election night. I talked of one of those yesterday with the Dominion voting machines that really should have been taken offline before the voting because online they were susceptible to voting fraud that a majority of us have seen. Like I said yesterday, in Pennsylvania alone, there was over 220,000 votes that were switched from Trump to Biden. That amount right there would cover the Biden wins in many of the states where Biden only won by 1% or less, meaning that those states would be flipped to Trump. In 2017, when Trump won, the Democrats did the same thing. So what is the difference? The only thing that I can see on this one is that in 2017, it was okay because the Democrats were fighting to win the election that they had lost. In 2020, the difference is here is that the Democrats won by a cheat, and they don't want that cheat to be found out. Not allowing the recounts would be all but assure that their cheating would not be found out. The problem lies in the fact that almost daily we are finding out that there are more and more indiscrepancies that are being found, especially after the Democrats changed the rules illegally to get the result that they wanted. And it is like I said yesterday, as a Republican, I am not so into winning that I would accept winning because of cheating. And if the Democrats were actually American-loving people, they wouldn't want that either. Both parties are supposed to be there to represent its constituents, not to support the destruction of the nation's laws and the destruction of the Constitution. Right now, the Republicans are the ones who support America and the Constitution, and the Democrats are the ones that do not. For without our Constitution and our laws, folks, this nation would not be the great nation that it is. And right now, it is the Democrats who are working overtime to destroy all of that. The sad part of this is that it is pushing the namby-pamby Republicans who can't stand up without help to stand up for America. They are now pushing for Trump to concede the election too, even though he won. America is being destroyed from within because that is what the Democrats want. But it seems the people don't. Even in D.C., there are protests that are erupting following the Stop the Steal rally. Folks, if this wasn't such a big deal for America, then it would not be a big deal to push for this. But America is being destroyed by the left, the Pelosi's, the Schumers, the Waters, the Grishams, the Cuomos, and so many others, including liberal judges that should be for the rule of law and what is fair, but they are not. That is another reason why I always end my updates and my shows with what a friend of mine used to always say: we will not be ruled. But the way we are going, we are letting the Democrats think we want to be ruled. If we don't stop that, America is gone, and we will be ruled, plain and simple. The way Biden is going at it right now, his presidency will not be a presidency, but an oligarchy. This is Robert the Infidel for today's NWCR's Removing a Liberal Blindfold from behind the silver microphone of freedom with the voice of reason in this increasingly unreasonable world. Brought to you through Conservative Nation Media, where we fight to make sure that America always wins. Have a blessed day, and God bless you all, and I'll see you again tomorrow.